So we'll do Blessed Nation. How you doing, Blessed Nation?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey,
So you're
not much.
atheist?
How are you? Yes, I am.
You didn't grow up as atheist, right? You were a part of, you said Christian faith?
I was Catholic growing up.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So can you prove there's no God?
No.
Why not?
It's very, very hard to prove a negative. Can you prove that there are no blue men living on Venus?
Okay, but you said it's a negative?
Yeah, it's very hard to prove a negative. So yeah,
No, I believe believing God is a positive.
right. What I'm saying is, it's very difficult to prove a negative, like God doesn't exist. And
No,
I never said.
you're confusing it.
How am I confusing it? What's that now?
It's a positive.
What is a positive?
So you're born believing in God. It's like you're born
Well,
with feet and eyes.
I don't know if I was born believing in God. I was raised in the Catholic Church because my mom was Catholic, and
you're born believing in God, and then your parents chose Catholic for you.
Wait. How do you know that though?
Oh, you didn't see the article of the humans are born and you are predispositioned to believe in God?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that article. What article is that?
Okay. I'll show you that article. It was a pretty intense scientific article produced by
You want to put it on your screen, and I'll blow you up, and we can read it together.
Thing is, I'm on my phone. I don't really know how to do that. I'm not really.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Do you have a link?
Yeah, I can find the link for you. 1 second.
Sure.
All right, 1 sec.
Or I'll just even Google it. Babies are born believing in God.
Or
Let me
the
see.
innate disposition, yes. By ScienceDaily.com, it's an innate disposition to believe in God. You have it in here.
Well, let's see. Here's a Vox article. What if children didn't have to be taught to believe in God? What if they were born with that ready-made belief somewhere embedded in their minds? That's the thesis of a 2012 book by psychologist Justin L. Barrett called Born Believers. Currently a researcher at Fuller Theological Seminary, and spent his years researching children and God. But then it says a new study out earlier this year, however, pushes against Barrett's conclusion. Published in the July issue of Cognitive Science, the article presents findings that seem to show that children's belief in the supernatural are the result of their education. Further, argue the researchers, exposure to religious ideas has a powerful impact on children's differentiation between reality and fiction. In other words, said Kathleen Corbo, one of the study's co-authors, the study found that childhood exposure to religious ideas may influence children's conception of what could actually happen. She also told me her research suggests
an article, and then they're saying their opinion. You can read the article by Science Daily and how they presented the article and how they did it.
Well, I'm talking. Well, this says there's a study that came out in that was December of 2014. So, okay, Science Daily.
Yeah, that's the article because those are the actual people that spent the money and the time to do it.
Science Daily. All right, so let's see. Science Daily. Why do we believe in gods? Religious belief not linked to rational intuition or rational thinking. That's probably not the one you're talking about. Oh wait, but it says here. Well, it says here in this is Science Daily. Oh, wait a minute. It's Coventry University. Hang on. No, that is Science Daily. Yeah.
So you don't.
It says it right here.
You don't accept that thesis that children are born believing in God, or like we.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying. Well, I didn't say that. I'm just saying it says here in the Science Daily. I'm looking at this article right here. But new research suggests that that is not the case and that people are not born believers. It says it right here. I just read it. So I'm confused.
So you don't believe that children are born believing in God or not? So
I don't believe that.
An intense article that has clear evidence.
Well, I just looked it up in the Science Daily and it contradicts what you just said. So I'm confused.
Here, I'll find.
So if you got a link, yeah, if you want to put the link in the chat, then we can look at it.
All right, 1 second.
So I'm just going by what I saw. I just Googled it and I put in "Are babies born believing in God?" Science Daily, and that's what came up. And I'm on the Science Daily website.
Here.
I mean, maybe is it a new study
Here,
that came out? Like,
here, I'm trying to. I just posted it on the chat.
okay, I don't see anything in chat. Hey, people in chat, can you type just to make sure my chat's working? Okay, there it is. Let's see. Yeah, I did. I mean, I even looked at things from like a year ago, and there's nothing about it from a year. The last thing I see is from 2017 from Science Daily.
So, do you think believing in God is an original statement?
Believing in God is an original. I don't know what that means.
Or is it
I don't know what that
something
means.
taught?
Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Ask your question again.
Do you think believing in God is an original statement, or is it something taught to you?
I think it's something taught. That's my belief. What would you say is your, well, besides the science?
You think someone can come up with something like believing in God?
Yes.
Out on their own?
We make things up all the time. So yeah, sure.
But
yeah.
as an original statement that doesn't use anything else to make this conclusion.
When you say original statement, what do you mean?
Like out of the blue.
Out of the blue?
Yeah,
okay.
Like something you can think of out of the blue that has no correlation with anything else.
Yeah, because I mean, we think of things out of the blue all the time. Like, how did we think of the wheel?
By looking at other things that are around. I'm saying without looking at anything around
right.
you, without looking at, do you think humans evolved into believing in God, or do you think a monkey was walking around, right, and then all of a sudden decided with no help, hey, I need to praying because this is not cool. Like this life ain't cool. I don't think start praying.
I don't think it started with praying.
I think he was taught to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it evolved into, beliefs evolved just like everything else. So what would you say then is your, so what would you say then besides this article that we are having trouble finding? What did you believe before you read this article?
We believe every baby is in full submission to God. And you have no choice.
You believe that before you read this article?
Well, of course.
Okay, and what was your basis for believing that? What evidence did you have of that? Yeah, what evidence did you have of that before you read this article that's supposedly out there? Like, what was your evidence of that?
Have you seen a baby? Have you seen a baby?
I've had 2 children, so yes, I've seen plenty of babies.
Is that baby in full submission to the will of God?
In my opinion, no, because if I don't believe there's God, then it's not. It was in full submission to me as a parent. I mean, it was completely reliant on me as a parent, but not to God. That's my belief.
Did you make the baby breathe every night?
Did I make the baby breathe every night? No. Yeah. Autonomic nervous system made the baby breathe.
And what does that depend on?
Well, what I'm asking you though is what's your evidence of that? So how did you determine this to be true?
You look at the child and you can see he's in full submission to the will of the Creator.
You look at the child and see, but full submission to what though? Like, how did you figure out it's God? How did you determine it's God that he's in full submission to and not something else?
Because that's the only thing that gives it purpose and gives it value. If you say there's no God, then that's just a thing of flesh and it has no value.
Wait a minute. How does purpose and value relate to breathing and a baby being in full submission? How does that? I'm not sure how that relates.
Yes, it depends on the existence of God for its existence.
How though? How did you figure that out though? How? Like, how did you come to that conclusion? That's what I'm asking you. Like, how did you figure that out? Like, take me through the steps of how you determine this to be true. Like, what
You just
steps?
look at
First step is what? What was the first step you took?
it. All you have to do is look at the thing, and
I
you
look.
can say you
Well,
just be like, okay,
I wouldn't call
this
babies things. I call them babies. They're humans. So I look at a
everything is
baby,
submission. Everything
but
is submission to God.
okay, everything
Trees,
is submission to God. But how do we
everything.
know that? Like, how did you figure that out?
You look at them.
You
They
look
have
at
no other
them.
choice. You had to have no other choice but to exist.
You had to have no other choice but to exist. Well,
Yes.
how? Okay, well, I agree with that. We can't choose to exist. I'm just saying, but how do you know that God did that?
Because you have to visualize it, right? Do
I
you
have to
exist?
visualize it.
What's your name?
Trust.
Do you exist?
Yes, I exist.
What's that?
Yes, I exist.
Okay. Why do you exist?
I exist because my mother and
You
father
just do.
conceived me.
Because you just
I exist
do.
I exist because my mother and father conceived me, and my mother gave birth to me.
To who? To the body, or to you as a person?
What? I'm not. I
Because you
don't
can still
understand
be
your question.
you can be born, but you can be still not alive.
Well, yeah, I agree. You'd be stillborn, which means you
Yeah.
wouldn't be alive. You wouldn't exist. So I
Yeah.
agree with that. But so yeah, so I wasn't. I was born. I was born alive,
Yeah.
and that's why I exist.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the reason why I exist.
Yeah. So you just exist, right? No matter what.
Well,
No matter what.
it's not.
You
It's
still
not a no
exist.
matter what.
No matter anything.
It's
Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, there's always a chance that I could stop breathing. I mean, that happens a lot with babies. Babies babies randomly stop breathing, and they can't really figure out why. Um, I'm just what I'm trying to get to is how do you know that it's God that did that? That's what I'm trying to get to. How do you know that?
Because you look at them.
But
Just
you
like-
look
just
at.
like
I don't know what that means. What does that mean, though? What does that mean?
How you can just like how you can see that a baby is fully dependent on you. It's also fully dependent on God.
But how does that? I don't understand how that follows. How do you get from
Unless-
it's fully dependent on me as a parent, and now it's fully dependent on God? So if it's fully dependent on God, and if I left my baby outside and didn't, what would happen to my baby?
Then now it's in full dependence on the will of God with no parent. Yeah.
So what would happen though? What would happen to the baby?
Anything can happen to it. It could be saved by a civilian. It could be saved by a civilian, and it could be maybe it could be the window might get broken, and you may be too late. Maybe anything could happen. But
how would I discern that? How would I distinguish that it's the will of God that the person came by to save it and not the will of the person? How would I distinguish that?
But everything just happens everything happens for a reason.
Well, I know you're
sometimes
okay, yeah, you're kind of restating the same thing. What I'm asking is how you figured that out to be true. Tell me how you did, because you're just saying, well, it just is, but tell me how. How do you understand that? Like, what were the steps you took, Blessed Nation, to say, oh, aha, I did this, and that leads me to conclude that everything starts with God. So how did you figure that out?
I want to know where you figured because I'm just born with it. Every human being is born believing in God.
But how do you know that, though?
I want to know how you figured out there's no God. That's what I want to know.
Well, I'm not saying there is no God. I'm saying I don't believe in a God. There's a difference. Do you see the difference?
So you see there's a chance of God then?
Oh, of course.
Okay,
just like there's a chance. Yeah. Are you saying that there's no chance that a God does not exist?
No, exactly.
There's no chance of it. Okay.
0% chance. Yes.
Why is this? So let me ask you this. Why is this belief important to you?
So I look at it like this. If there's no God, then everything here has no value, right? You can't.
There's no God. There's no value.
There's no value to anything, right? Anything is just an atom floating in the earth, right? Just like how I can bite an apple, I should be able to bite you, and it's just a movement of atoms, and it doesn't matter, right? The only thing that gives you purpose and tells you that you feel are valued is through God. Without that, there's nothing. You're nothing.
What purpose does God give me?
It gives you a value as a human being. You, the
Right.
person, it gives who you are a person value.
What value is that though? Like
Just
what? What is it? What is the value?
It's the either love from God that you receive from God, the love, and the how you feel like you're you know the paradise that you receive on this earth and afterwards, and then of course the pain that you might receive on this world and afterwards.
Wait a second. So my existence, God gives my existence purpose, but it's purely based on whether or not I go to paradise or get punishment.
Yes. How
that's
you
my
act as a
value.
person.
That's my value.
Is, you can be less valuable than a dog, or you can be more valuable than an angel.
But God gives me that purpose.
And God gives you that value.
What does God get out of that?
You're just neutrally nothing.
Okay. What does God get out of that?
He gets obedient slaves.
Ooh, obedient slaves?
Obedient slaves. He gets enough. He doesn't need anything from us, but he gets our obedience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then why did he create us?
To test our obedience.
To test our obedience, but for what purpose?
Nothing.
Like what's in it for him to test our obedience? Like what does he get out of that?
Nothing. We are the one that get everything.
Right. But why? But okay. So if we're the ones who get everything but God is testing our obedience, why would God do that?
He doesn't.
Like what's in it for him?
Nothing.
He needs nothing for it?
He's that good.
He's that like good. So
chill.
He just created us for no reason?
Pretty much. If he wanted, he could destroy all of us and restart and refresh.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying there, because that follows. That makes sense, because if God is all powerful, all loving, all knowing, all powerful, that means he could Thanos us, right out of existence, right? Mm-hmm. So, but why would God Thanos us into existence? Like, why? If it's just a test, but for what purpose? Like, for what reason would he test us?
To see which one of you are the best in piety.
Okay, but what does that do for God, though?
It's just to see how good you can be as a person, and God loves to love people, right?
God loves to love people. Okay.
He loves to love people, and he hates to hate people. But there's people that deserve the hate of God and the wrath of God, right?
Okay.
But he loves the people that ask for his love, and he loves the people that ask for his love.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so so I think I hear that. So did God create us out of love? Because I could see that. I mean, no.
He didn't create us for anything. He didn't create us out of anything. He just created us to see which one of us is going to be the best in piety.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a contest. Like, I just want to see which of you is going to be the most pious, who will just worship me the best and the most.
Yes.
And
yes.
But why would what is? But see, the thing is that when someone, like a being, does that, like, usually they don't just do it for no reason. There's a reason they want to do that. Like,
God tells us the reason is, I know what you do not know.
I know what you do not know.
I know what you do not know, and we don't need to ask any further. Okay.
So it doesn't. So you're saying it's a reason we don't know. So we don't know why he does this.
But but he tells us the reason why we are who we are, right? To tell us,
he tells us the reason why we are who we are.
Because we just are, right? We are, right? And so we can't change that. And so
we are who we are. I mean, for the most part.
He tells us the mission you're on, right? Just like how if I was to wake up on a boat, right? And I'm just like, how the hell did I get here? Where am I going?
Mhm.
Right? And like, what's next? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So just like how it asked those questions, God gives us the truth through prophecies and through prophets.
Okay.
Okay? And in the atheist paradigm, I need you to also disprove that prophets can't do miracles. And you can't either. They just are. They just happen. Right?
Well,
And
yeah,
now you need
I
to
can't
disprove that they didn't happen, right?
Why do I need to disprove anything?
Because you're the one that's coming on the stage and saying there is no God in a world owned by God. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's like me going
All right.
out and everybody has a brain, and I'm just like, there's no brains. Okay, prove there's no
Okay.
brains.
Okay. Let me kind of take you through a thought experiment. If you saw in my caption before you entered my chat, it says I have an invisible dragon, right? So I have an invisible fire-breathing dragon that lives in my house. Do you believe me?
No, because you could be contradictory. But if every single person in the
I
world
could be
had
contradictory?
a dragon in their house, yeah. If every single person in the world had a dragon in their house, right? And you said, "Oh, I don't have a dragon in my house." Same thing, right?
I'm not following.
You have to prove that there's no dragon in your house.
I have to prove that there's no.
Yeah,
I
so
have to
everybody
prove
has
that.
a dragon. If everybody has one in his house.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because I do have a dragon in my house, and you're saying
Yes.
I have to prove that I have a dragon in my house.
No, you have to either if it's a positive that, like you said, you know, but now you're saying a negative.
No. I just said I have a dragon in my house. I have an invisible fire-breathing dragon in my house, and I just simply asked, do you believe me or not?
I mean, in this world, no.
Okay, you don't believe me. Okay. And so if I said to you, you need to prove that I don't have a dragon in my house, what would you say?
So, for example, if every single person in the world had a dragon in the house, right, it would be the likeliness of you having a dragon would be higher. So now I'd believe you if you said that, right?
Okay.
You'd be like, oh, I believe you, right?
Okay.
But that's also, you can't use that because it's also like, you can't use population, like, oh, most people are religious, that means it has to be true, right? You don't like that argument. Just most people believe in a God, so it makes it true. You believe in that argument?
Yeah, there is, and that's actually one of the reasons why I'm not. Well, let me ask you this: how atheist do you think I am? Like, what would you say my level of certainty is on a scale of 0 to 100? How certain do you think I am that God doesn't exist?
0% certain. You know,
You're
100% that there's.
You think I'm 0? You think I'm 100% certain? Okay.
Yes.
And that's not true. Yeah, that's not true. I'm about 90.
Suppress it.
I'm about 98%. I'm about 98% sure God does not exist. So how certain are you that God exists?
Are you 100% human?
Yes.
Okay, why? How come you can't say you're 90% human?
Well, I can't say that because I can look at, all I have to do is just take a blood test or take a DNA test, and that will tell me.
Okay, but
so that's easy. That's easy to verify.
DNA test. You're in the past.
Well, then I'd use empirical evidence.
This, so you're actually 1/3 human.
Well, I'd use empirical evidence, and there were theories about that. You're right. 200 years ago, because of my skin color, people would say I was not human.
It doesn't matter what you're empirical. Yeah, and it doesn't matter what evidence you bring, right? And that's how it is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does matter.
Likely your chances.
It does matter. So, all right. Well, let me ask you a question. How certain are you that a God exists?
100%.
100%. Okay. So I'm about 2% certain that God exists. There's no gap.
Huh?
And Okay,
2%.
I'm about 2% certain that God exists. 2%. So that's not true that I don't say God doesn't exist. I said I don't believe in a God. I just don't believe.
Brother, that's not how it works. That's saying that there's a squared circle. It's either you're 100% or you're just 100% irrational. You know, that's
Okay,
just how it is.
so
You're either like
okay,
it's either you fall into the it's maybe, so you're agnostic. That's not how it works. It's either you are or you ain't.
have you ever had any? Have you? So what you're saying to me then is that it's either 0 or 100. Either you know it or you don't.
In your heart.
Either you
In your
believe,
heart, yes.
right? In your heart,
In your
it's
heart,
either
yes.
it's either yes or no. It's either black or white. And is this just for God beliefs, or is this for any belief?
No, that's just for God.
Just for God? Why is that an exception?
Because you can have a chance that 50-50, like a kid can be born.
Right.
You know?
So I believe, yeah, because you're right. When my kids were born, wait, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 27.
You're 27. Do you have any kids?
Yeah.
Okay. How many kids do you have?
One.
One kid. Congratulations. That's
I
awesome.
think.
So I have two. And when your kid was, so when the mom was pregnant, when the mom was pregnant, how certain were you while she was pregnant that the kid would be born, that your kid would be born?
I was pretty certain.
Pretty 100%?
Yeah, we live in a time where it'll be like 99%.
99%. But were you 100% certain?
I mean, if we do the math, what's the math on this? What's the articles? What do the articles say?
Right. But I'm asking you, were you 100% certain?
No, you can never be certain anything.
Okay, so what I'm asking you then is why is that different from why can't I be 2% certain that God exists?
Because you're born with it. It's like you're saying you're 2% human.
All right, we're kind of going in circles because we're back to you're born with it. But I asked you for evidence of why we're born with it, and I haven't seen that. So,
I mean, there's so much articles on it, and there's the most of them agree.
I didn't find those articles.
That you're born.
I looked on
Can you
Google.
be born gay?
Can I? Could I?
Can you?
I think so. There's a lot of research that suggests that. Yeah.
Show me the evidence on that. I don't see no evidence on that.
There's tons of it. Well, if you look up Google, and actually, if you go to the National Institutes of Health, you can see it. There have been studies on that.
So, but you can also be born an alcoholic as well, right?
Yes. There is some research. There's some evidence that suggests that as well. Okay, so there are how many results here? Oh, it doesn't. 58 million results.
Even though I've seen people that are denied. Even so, it doesn't matter if you're how you were born, or where you were born, or what. It matters is your submission to the one true God. You know?
Okay.
Okay.
Is that the most important? Is that the reason? Is that the reason why you believe this? Is that you have to submit to God?
Yes.
Okay. So obedience. That's the value of that. Okay. And why is obedience important to you?
Because it gives us like a society where we can control how we treat people and good and evil.
Okay.
You know, because if we don't have a playbook, it's kind of just whatever.
Okay. What would happen to you? What would happen if you personally stopped obeying God? I'm not saying you would. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you would. I'm just asking what would happen if you stopped obeying God, whatever that means.
So if God loves you, He'll let you kind of keep going and let you enjoy your life and let you.
Yeah.
But if I'm saying hates you. If He loves you, then he will find ways and give you opportunities to come back and get closer and closer, and then your heart will settle with it, you know. And
Okay.
then eventually, if you don't, your heart kind of gets more darker and darker, and God lets you do your thing. It
hmm
means you can come back to God, and then sometimes people lose God, and then they come back to God. You know, it's phases that humans go to, but God is the most merciful.
Okay. So what? Well, I guess I'm asking you, what happens to you? What would happen to you? Like, what would ultimately end up happening if you just decided tomorrow
Like,
I'm not going to obey God anymore? Oh, you're breaking up.
anything can happen.
Oh, wait. Yeah,
Any,
but
anything can
what do you
happen.
think would happen? Anything could happen?
Yeah,
I don't know
anything.
what that means.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Whatever
anything
happens,
could happen to you if you stopped obeying God, anything could happen.
anything can happen.
And
It doesn't really matter because God doesn't need you. You need God. If you
right,
find
right.
pleasure in not obeying God, then that's what you see. I can tell you.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what would happen if you stopped. What would happen if? So you're saying if I stopped obeying God tomorrow, anything
Did
could
you want
happen.
like a lightning bolt to hit
So,
you? Did you want
well,
like a
no,
lightning bolt to hit
I'm
hit
asking you
you?
what you think would happen if you stopped obeying God. That's what I'm asking you. What do you think would happen if you stopped obeying God?
So, if you, as a person, is not loved by God, He'll let you do your thing and let you enjoy your life and maybe give you a lot of pleasures.
Yeah, I
You
heard
might be
that.
even rich.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah, yeah,
if He
yeah.
loves
You,
you,
you might be rich,
hardships in your life.
but what's the
He
end
might
game
put
though? Like,
hardships in your
what would
life.
happen at the end? What would happen at the end to you?
You go to the day of judgment.
You
Go
go
to the
through a
day
day
of
of
judgment, and
judgment,
God, yes.
and then what happens after that?
And then your fate is decided by what you've done.
Okay. Isn't that the case though? If you do obey God, your fate is decided by what you've done.
Yes, but
Don't we all go
ultimately
through
it's
that day of
decided.
judgment?
Yes, but eventually the mercy of God determines your total fate, of course. But yeah, your
Right,
actions,
right.
yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out though what happens though. What happens next? Like what happens after if you stop obeying God? Because you're
I
saying, well,
mean,
you go through judgment and you can live your life and things will happen. Okay, that's great. What I'm saying is what happens after the day of judgment if you haven't been obedient to God? What happens?
if you die on the belief to submitting to the one true God and submitting to the that He sent prophets and has angels
Mm-hmm.
and learning and knowing, you will receive the ultimate reward,
The
which
ultimate
was
reward.
something reward. That's something that
And
you deserve as a that you've worked for, and but end of the day, your mercy is totally the key to heaven.
You hit mute.
Hey, I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
now? Hello? Can you hear me? Chat?
Yep.
Okay, you can hear me. All right. So,
So,
okay, so you described to me what happens when you obey God. You get the ultimate reward. When you obey God, you believe in angels, you believe in Jesus Christ, you get the ultimate reward. So, what happens at that point when you don't believe in God? What happens? What is the opposite of the ultimate reward?
so that means you chose to go to hellfire.
Okay, so you get hellfire.
You
That's what you get.
chose
You go to hell, right?
hellfire.
Right.
That's
You
what
chose that. Okay. That's that's all I'm asking is what happens if you choose that. So you said it. You go to hell. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
okay. So So you do it if you go to hell. Would you still be, and that's, so is that the reason to be obedient, is so that you don't go to hell?
Like, is other reasons? I mean, there's many. Like, I want to see God. That's that's my main reason. I want
Yeah.
to meet God.
Yeah.
Your reason can be I don't want to go to hell, but my reasoning is, and the reasoning is, I feel there's a set of lines and guidelines that I follow that I feel God morally chooses for me, right? And tells me what tells me what's right or wrong.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I can't choose that for myself.
What are, list me three things, the moral guidelines that God gives you. Give me three things. What three things are those moral guidelines?
So we have the 5 pillars of faith. You ever heard of them of Islam?
I've heard. Yeah, I can't quite remember what they are. What are they?
See, I don't want to bring up Islam unless you're going to tell me that you believe in God. Once you tell me that you believe in God, then I'll talk about Islam, because I don't see a purpose in talking about Islam with you. There's no purpose, you know.
Oh, this is Islam. Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to talk about, if you're going to tell me there's a God, then I'll tell you about Islam. If not, then I'll just kind of leave and I have to go eat, you know.
All right. Well, that's fine.
Do you believe in God?
See you later. No, I don't.
Okay, then there's no purpose in talking about Islam. I want to know why.
Well, wait a minute. Why did you come up then? Because it says I'm an atheist. So why did you even come up in the first place?
Because you said you're atheist, and I want proof that there's no God.
Where did I say that?
Atheist is asking.
That's asking. What I said. Yeah. What is your God belief? Atheist is asking. Where do you see proof in there? Where's proof?
No, that's you're when you say
point atheist, out where it says proof to me. I don't see proof there. Where is that?
I want to know your proof why there's no God. I'm coming up with my own questioning.
I don't have proof. Okay, let me ask you this. I don't have proof. So, okay, let's just say I don't have proof. Now what?
Then you have no other choice but to believe and start worshiping.
I have no choice but to believe.
And start worshiping.
But I don't need proof. But how do you need proof to not believe something? Do you believe in Santa Claus? Do you believe in Santa Claus?
No, because you were going just like how you don't. I don't believe in unicorns.
Okay, so then you need. But there are a lot of people who believe in Santa Claus, so you need proof to not believe in Santa. What's your proof that Santa Claus doesn't exist?
Because as a baby, you were born with the. It was born within.
That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking you is, you said you don't believe in Santa Claus. You earlier said there's a lot of people who believe in God, so that means, but there's a lot of people who believe in Santa Claus. So what is your proof that Santa Claus does not exist?
I asked you, do you accept that point? And
you said no. You said that there are a lot of, it's the opposite. No. So what I'm asking you is, what is your proof that Santa Claus does not exist? Because if you don't have proof, just according to your logic, if you don't have proof, that means you have no other choice but to believe in Santa Claus. So that means you believe in Santa Claus, right?
Listen, I'm not born believing in Santa Claus.
How do you know that?
Understand. I'm not born with it because it's something you're taught. The only thing that you're not taught is your innate disposition.
But you haven't demonstrated that we're born believing this. I asked you for evidence and I still haven't gotten it. Where's the link in the chat? You haven't sent the link in the chat. So you haven't demonstrated that we're born believing in God. So why should I believe in God?
I just gave you the article right here. Here, I'm sorry.
You didn't give me the article. I looked it up on Google. I am looking through the chat. I do not see an article. How about this? Why don't you go eat, and why don't you go find the article and you can DM it to me? How about that?
All right, bet. I'll DM you and I'll highlight some things and I'll kind of like
point
what I see. And
perfect.
You
yeah.
All right.
Awesome, man.
Good,
hey, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, I'll follow you.
Take care.
Sure. All right, man.
All right, man. Enjoy your food, man, and tell your friend also enjoy his food too. Take it easy, guys. Yep. All right, that was interesting.